So someone asked me the question, can I load buckshot without a press? And I'm going to give you guys a quick how-to. You will need a roll crimper, and I have a video on how to use a roll crimper. You will need a roll crimper if you don't have a press to star crimp these. But every other operation can be done off of the press. Now, this would really only work in a single shot shotgun, a double barrel shotgun, even a double barrel probably not. Because there's no way to size this brass, and if this brass expands, it may or may not chamber in a different gun. So if you fire this in a single shot shotgun, it should rechamber in that same shotgun. You know, the same would probably be true of a pump. But like a multi-barrel shotgun, or if you own multiple shotguns, some chambers are looser than others, and so this may not work for that. So what you would need, of course, you would need some powder. You would need a scale, okay, powder pan and a scale. I have some 3/4 inch PVC, and I have chamfered one end of the mouth, and I'll show you what that's for in a minute. You need a punch or a nail. You need some holes. You need some type of scoop, a hammer. You need new shotgun primers. Of course, you would need some buckshot if you're going to load buckshot. So what's the process? The first thing you're going to take this guy here with the spent primer, and I just use this board here. Just find a gap in the board. Make sure that the primer, you can see where I screwed up, and the primer was actually on the board. That works really well. But anyway, make sure that there's a gap in the primer, and you either put this nail or this punch, and make sure you put it on the primer there in the center, not on the plastic base around the primer, and you punch that out. That's step one. You punch out the old primer. 3/4 inch PVC, if you chamfer one end of the mouth really well, fits nicely over a 12 gauge, okay? So that chamfered end goes here. Line up your new primer, put it down. I take my hammer sideways and tap, and it actually will drive that primer in. Usually this goes up into the PVC and gets stuck, so I take my punch. Make sure you take your punch and push on the plastic wad base this time, not the brand new primer, to get it out of your PVC. So that's how you'd unprime and reprime a 12 gauge shell. So that's step one, unprime and reprime. Step two, turn on your powder scale and go ahead. I'm going to put my powder pan on there. And what you've got to do is find some measuring device. And it doesn't have to be a powder scoop. It could be anything. I've seen guys solder like a nail to an old 9mm brass, something like that. But you're going to get a scoop of your powder here, okay? And I always like to make sure whatever I'm doing here, so there's a scoop of my powder, I always like to make sure that I take a straight edge and wipe it off, okay? So there's a scoop of my powder. Right, we take our powder and we dump it into our hull, okay? So we use our powder pan here, dump that in, okay? Then what? Wad, and I am going to work it in around this crimp, which is way easier than it sounds. That is the hardest part of this. I'll take the flat side of the nail and I'll tap this in, okay? Once you get past the crimp, it's no big deal. And I push that down until it's firmly seated, okay? Firmly seated against the powder. Okay, so firmly seat that against the powder. If you don't get a good firm compression on that, so I like to use a punch, a dowel, something, firmly seat that against the powder. I'm going to do an 8-shot buck, and so 8-shot buck, 8-pellet buck, you drop in 2, and then you drop in 2 more, okay, and they tend to stack real pretty. Here you are. So 8-pellet buck, voila. Now, I've got that on there, so that's my boom, boom. Now, the last step would be to roll crimp this. So I'm going to put an overshot card in, because you have to have an overshot card for roll crimp. And it can be anything. It could be a piece of index card you cut. These are actually overshot cards for number 8 shot. And I don't shoot a lot of number 8 shot, but I bought them because they were like dirt cheap. And then you'll roll crimp this, and you'll have, voila, buckshot. Voila, roll crimp. So, roll crimp. Not great. I actually held this in my hand just to show that I can do it. It's not beautiful. It will fire. It will work. everything's good to go there. So here is the roll crimper that I use. It is from BPI. What I would recommend if you are doing it this way is I would do all my priming and repriming at one step. Then I would do all my powder chargers at one step. And once you've weighed these and you know that this scoop leveled off is coming up at or below every time, you can kind of batch and just check every fifth one or whatever. Roll crimping, this thing has got to be hot. I mean, it's hot enough now for me roll crimping that I can barely touch it. It'll burn me if I hold on to it. So I would do all the roll crimping at once, and the first couple of roll crimps kind of come out like this because the tool is not super hot, so the more you roll crimp, the better it does. So I would definitely do all my roll crimping at once. But anyway, that is how you load buckshot without a press, and you get a shell that will work. Whatever shotgun this was fired in, it'll fire in it again. So anyway, guys, I hope that helps. If it does, please like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know what you think. And we appreciate your support.